California cannabis growers lobby Governor Newsom for a new direct-to-consumer sales law. This is by Joan Alec. Participants at future California-based temporary cannabis events, like those celebrating 420, for example, may be surprised to find small farmers hawking cannabis alongside reps from giant marijuana retailers. It all depends on whether Governor Gavin Newsom signs into law AB 111, California's legislation, which would allow small-scale cannabis producers to sell direct to consumers the same way small wineries do. Under the law passed by the legislature last month, sales and on-site consumption could take place subject to local jurisdictional authority at cannabis events approved by the California's Department of Cannabis Control and presided over by a DCC licensed retailer. Consumption could occur in areas separated from overall customer traffic. What farmers would be included? Think small. A new license from the state's Department of Cannabis Control would be offered as of January 2026 to applicants cultivating no more than 10,000 square feet of cannabis, with square footage limits specified for different tier cultivation scenarios. Expanded square footages would be permitted the following year. Small-scale growers would have no more than $175,000 in retail sales per year, subject to reevaluation in 2027. No surprise that weed farmers in California, who like those in other states have suffered financially from surpluses of biomass, are pushing the bill hard. The entry of major retailers into the legal market is another challenge. As a farmer's daughter, knowing the importance of having that direct relationship with the consumer, this allows cannabis farmers to be able to sell at authorized events, cannabis directly to the sellers, bringing the stock right to the person. State Senator Susan Talamantes Eggman of Joaquin County said in the state Senate floor. The Senate passed the vote in August. The Assembly approved it in May. Advocates are gearing up. During a public webinar last week, representatives from Origins Council, Supernova Women, California Normal, and Equity Trade Network urged listeners to sign a letter to Newsom saying that AB 111 would enable small cannabis farmers to conduct sales at cannabis events without investing many tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars to become a full-time retailer. Further, the letter argued the new license would make a greater diversity of and quality of products available to consumers and patients. Other point webinar speakers emphasized in AB 111's favor. As a consumer myself, I go to your average retailer and usually something's already packaged on a wall somewhere and I can't smell it. Sometimes they have a smell jar, but not often, said Ellen Comp, Deputy Director of California Normal. I can't really usually find out anything about where it was grown or how it was grown or if organic practices were used, if it was outdoor, anything like that. Ellen, go to a better retailer. They know those things. And just like when I buy my produce, I like to know all those things. I like to meet my farmer. For us in rural communities, part of what we need right now is anything to drive the economy, said Janine Coleman, Executive Director of Origins Council. I mean, our economies are collapsing straight up. So looking at agro-tourism is one sector that cannabis can tag on to effectively. It's an opportunity for regulatory reform. Getting this bill into law creates the opportunity to start to try and reform the whole events framework to make it more in reach for small-scale events and small businesses. If you search alcohol license types in California, there's a website that shows you 99 different types of license types you can get if you sell beer, wines, or spirits in California, said Ross Gordon, Policy Director of the Origins Council. If you want to sell at a farmer's market in California an alcoholic product, you get a permit from farmer's market sales. You don't get a license to be a full-time alcohol retailer. California's cannabis market is the largest in the nation. Thank you. Get away, Michigan. And the largest to consider direct-to-consumer sales. Other states have considered but largely rejected such moves for small farmers. In New York, authorities have allowed local farmers markets to host cannabis grower showcases. Licensed growers and manufacturers may sell their products there. Growers and processors, however, may not sell directly to consumers at these events. In Massachusetts, there was a brief flurry of interest in 2021. But we know Massachusetts is also its own dumpster fire, with ads promoting a legal cannabis community farmers market. But as the Worcestershire Telegram described it, only information about medical and homegrown cannabis was offered. The state's farmers cannabis guidance document makes it clear that direct-to-consumer sales are not permitted. In Oregon, legislation for agricultural tourism in 2023 would have allowed direct-to-consumer sales of 3.5 grams or about 1/8 of an ounce of marijuana. The bill did not pass. So, let me just preface handing this over to my other guests and pundits by offering a few of my own personal perspectives. For starters, we need to think about the interest of retailers also. That is a very expensive license type to stand up. And so we have to find a way to support farmers, but we also need to think about a way to support retailers whose margins are small, whose startup costs and carrying costs are large, and who have provided a vital and still unfully developed role in the regulated supply chain. Secondarily, limiting this to farmers whose canopy is less than 10,000 square feet is effectively protectionism for some of the places in the Emerald Triangle and other places where small canopy is allowed and large canopy isn't. That is a well-intended attempt to save the cottage cultivator, but I would offer that the cottage cultivator in California is like polar bears on melting ice caps. I love polar bears. I don't know how we solve it. I'm not sure that this does. Lastly, we have already seen some effective direct-to-consumer sales, such as at the California State Fair and other events where brands get to participate. So some of the hyperbole and rhetoric in this about getting products that you wouldn't normally be able to get isn't entirely accurate, because all products can be distributed and sold through retailers. And lastly, anything that we can do to support any farmers in or outside of regulated cannabis is something that I'm going to try to find a way to personally support. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to hear what my other guests and pendants have to say.
I mean, I just,
Jason, I want to hear what you have to say.
Man, I just feel like this right here. I think if this was enacted, all the retailers would be able to sue the state of California, because you would basically be eliminating their retail licenses and all the money that they've put into them. I think that's. I don't see any way that this thing goes through. This is.
What they do here they approved in Nevada is like a food truck option, kind of a thing. So a
that's
portable
called a delivery
dispensary.
License, Todd.
Oh no, it's a portable dispensary that can show up at events.
Todd, it's the same thing. It's a delivery license. It's an ice cream truck model. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So that's what they do here. Yeah.
I mean, one thing is.
I'd run outside if the weed truck was driving around my neighborhood.
I bet you would, even in a bathing suit and a hair mask on.
Oh boy.
Especially in a bathing suit.
I don't mean to bring things down or anything, but the ice cream truck, that song is racist as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Look, it is. Look it up. It's some crazy shit. I gotta go.
It is very interesting.
It's close.
Anna Lewis in the chat, the CEO of Catalyst says that she supports this, and to watch out for the scarcity mindset.
I think she has a better perspective than me, co-owning and running a 30-location retail operation. She's boots on the ground and has a 30,000-foot overview, both operationally and policy-wise. And, I don't think my opinion is worth more than hers on this particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that, you have to get pretty creative these days if you want to, advertise and you want to communicate with the consumers and the different demographics out there. And if you have to, go throw a farmer's market where you can't do anything but give information.
Well, that's how
just to polarize the position. I think that's a good thing. I think that's, even though it sucks, yes, that's the only way and that's the only tool these business owners have to even have that dialogue and that discourse. And it's important to highlight those things. And even though look, obviously those incur costs and you want to make money at those kinds of things, but you have to take that position just to highlight the disproportionality of our industry and the duplicity of kind of how we do things in this country with regards to every other business and how we treat our cannabis industry, which is actually making money everywhere it's implemented. So I don't know.
Well, Saman, that's how this whole thing got started. Is you had these same farmers that were saying, hey, we need a way to do direct to consumer, so they created the ability for them to participate and do direct to consumer at events, no more than 4 events per year or whatnot. And now they have that, and now they want this, and it's just going to keep on going on and on and on.
Yeah, I just feel like we're in the position where they can toss us around. They can do whatever they want to cannabis operators. They don't even have to go through the normal proper channels or the proper, I guess, like road map or however you say that to get to the decision to do these things. For instance, just with like with property stuff, with entitlements, with setbacks and with easements for businesses, these things are coming up more and more where the municipalities are just kind of encroaching on these businesses without giving them a chance to even defend or to stop or to halt or slow down the process. And I think it's a real travesty because you're just doing it to the the money makers, to the cash cows out here that are helping to keep these cities afloat, pay those bills. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
You're all R2D2, Jenny. You're all R2D2.
It's underwater.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Jenny. It'd be better if you just typed it in the chat.
You're good.
Just type what you want to say in the chat. I'll read it.
Or sign language.
Sign language could work.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Anna Lewis has a good point, though, in the chat, because at the end of the day, it shows a cooperative mindset. And I think what she's talking about as an operator and retailer is the idea of growing the regulated market, and that the threats to the regulated market are primarily policy and external and not additional ways to create retail access for people. And we have to remember that there are still massive swaths of retail deserts where there is no brick and mortar retail. And so the chokehold of retail has been a big issue in California, a big issue in New York. And any way that we can grow retail opportunities, whether it's DTC or through brick and mortar or delivery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is probably a net positive for all regulated stakeholders. And I get that perspective very much.
Fair enough. And seeing as how Rico has dropped and Jenny's having technical difficulties, we're going to roll right into Mr. Saman Razani.